Supernatural might not be known as the scariest show that was ever on TV, but it does have plenty of episodes full of gory deaths, horrible monsters, and some pretty great practical effects, especially in the first few seasons. And over the years, Supernatural's explored a variety of different types of horror, from the very practical fear of being eaten alive to the psychological fear of becoming something that eats people alive. They've definitely covered it all. So what I've tried to do here is put together a list of 5 of the scariest episodes of Supernatural, with each one featuring a different type of horror with a different kind of monster in it. No Rest for the Wicked is my pick for a spooky demon possession episode. This one revolves around Sam and Dean hunting down Lilith, the very first demon, in the hopes that killing her will prevent Dean from going to hell. But at the moment, Lilith is on vacation, which means possessing a little girl and torturing her family. The child actor portraying Lilith is the scariest part of this episode. She's adorable and horrifying, which is always a great combination for any demonic possession story. No Rest for the Wicked plays on the prospect of being held hostage by the most innocent member of your family. It's a chilling concept that gets pushed pretty far in the episode. The family is held against their will, and on top of everything else, they're forced to smile through all the horrors that are inflicted upon them. Just one little misstep, and she'll brutally murder them, just like Freckles here.
What happened to your dress?
Oh, Freckles is mean to me.
That's nice, dear.
This episode might not have as many outright scares as the other episodes on this list, but overall, the premise is a stomach-turning one, with the demon Lilith controlling this little girl as she enjoys her time slowly working through killing the members of this family one by one, for fun. It's sick stuff that really makes your mind wander to unpleasant places. And for that kind of staying power, No Rest for the Wicked makes this top 5 list representing demonic possessions. Season 1's Bloody Mary episode is one of Supernatural's best ghost stories. There's just something about a good ghost story. Maybe it's the idea that you don't really understand how they work or what their intentions are, but the mystery behind them is ultimately what makes them frightening. And this episode comes with an extra dose of nostalgia from Bloody Mary herself. I don't know about you, but where I grew up, every kid in my neighborhood knew this legend and attempted it at some point. And this episode, just like the legend, is about a ghostly girl who is summoned through the mirror by speaking her name 3 times.
Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary's victims then have their eyes liquefied out of their skulls, and the result is quite a few bloody murder scenes in this episode. It's your Pandora's box type horror. You're told not to do something or alternatively dare to do it, and as a result wind up unleashing unexpected terrors upon yourself and everyone around you. One great aspect of the episode is that as it goes on, Sam and Dean become more and more cautious about saying the phrase Bloody Mary in front of the mirror for fear of summoning her. It immerses you in the moment alongside the characters, which is usually the hardest thing for any horror story to do. This episode pulls you in and delivers on gore with a lot of practical blood pouring out of people's eyes. It's absolutely the bloodiest Supernatural episode on this list. Metamorphosis is classic transformation horror. Much like a werewolf movie, this one follows a protagonist undergoing a transformation. This time, though, it's into a Rougarou, a flesh-eating beastman from Cajun lore. As an audience member, you're with this guy from the moment he begins to change, which gives you the ability to sympathize for him while experiencing the horror alongside of him, watching him turn into something he doesn't understand. It taps into interpersonal horrors, like the struggle of addiction, having something dark and uncontrollable inside of you as a result of your genetics, or maybe because of some childhood trauma. Something that just keeps getting hungrier every day that it lives inside you. And because of this, Metamorphosis really shines as one of Supernatural's creepier psychological thrillers. You want the monster in this episode to overcome his nature, and as a result, a lot of the horror in this one comes from witnessing the disgusting acts that he gives into. Every point in this story that brings him lower and closer to fully transforming reaches down into your guts. you feel for this guy. The episode leads to a great climax where you'll legitimately be guessing how it's going to end, and that's pretty impressive for any Supernatural episode, considering the series had a very predictable, albeit successful, formula. This one's got a lot of great body horror, and a few moments that catch you off guard with how sudden and gory they are. It's got good jump scares, as well as a few moments that are creepy because they take their time, lingering in tension, which is why Metamorphosis is my recommendation for Supernatural Transformation Horror episode. The title of this episode ought to tell you most of what you need to know. Clowns, man. They're the worst. Especially this clown with his creepy character design. This one is my pick for freakiest Monster of the Week episode of Supernatural, because you just can't beat how unsettling it is to see a clown in a situation they just should not be in. You know, at night on the side of the road waving at you, or in your backyard, smiling at you, and this one is chock full of those moments. With a slight spin on the premise of it, this episode revolves around a monster that uses the form of a clown to befriend children so they can eat their parents, which doesn't seem like a great strategy because if I was a kid, there's no way I'd be letting this thing into my house ever, especially in the middle of the night. But like the plot of so many other horror stories, this one also revolves around some kid being kinda stupid.
Look, Mom, the clown!
The murders eventually attract Sam and Dean's attention, which brings them to a traveling carnival where they take up jobs to further their investigation into this killer clown. Everyone Loves a Clown becomes a mystery whodunit, with the Winchesters narrowing down their potential suspects amongst the carnival workers. The carnival setting itself provides a lot of great jump scares from the freaks as well as inside the House of Fun. And so if clowns freak out, then this Supernatural episode is going to have a lot of good scares for you. Family Remains is my pick for the monster is actually a person episode. Supernatural has a few episodes that are scary because the monster turns out to be human. And Family Remains is absolutely the scariest. This one is about a family that moves into a home that's seemingly haunted by a poltergeist. You see, the previous owner was murdered by a woman who looked just like his dead daughter. As Sam and Dean show up at the home to investigate the murder, this new family arrives. Eventually, though, Sam and Dean realize that they're not dealing with a ghost at all, but in actuality, the feral, inbred daughter of the previous owner. Yeah, let that sink in. A lot of the horror in the episode comes from Sam and Dean not being prepared for the situation. Exorcising ghosts is about as routine as it gets for these two guys, but having to deal with a living person who's not fully capable of understanding what they're doing is a little more complicated. They don't have their usual weapons or any of the rules that they normally operate under that would typically keep them safe from ghosts. Family Remains becomes a trapped in the house with the killer story. Out in the middle of nowhere, slash car tires so they can't escape. No weapons to fight back with, the group slowly getting separated and picked off with a killer that can seemingly appear and disappear at will.
What's going on?
And when she does appear, she's just awful looking, man. This scene where she eats the rat is straight up nightmare fuel. For that scene alone, Family Remains makes this list of scary Supernatural episodes. It is absolutely one to watch with the lights off in the dark. So there you go, my top 5 scariest Supernatural episodes. I mean, sure, Supernatural's not the deepest or darkest horror out there by any means. It was on the CW after all. But these 5 episodes, whether for the cheap jump scares they provide or the deeper psychological fears that they tap into, do deliver on the spooks. They're a great way to add a little bit of lighter horror into the Halloween watch list and an awesome gateway into scary movies for anyone in your life who hasn't typically consumed the genre. Which is why I absolutely recommend these 5 scary episodes of Supernatural, particularly if you're looking to add a little bit of variety to your watch list around Halloween.